So I just saw this joke about how the British colonized the whole world for spices, Marco Polo and all that. And they forgot about them. That's the joke because the British don't really have good food, unless you count, the food that has come into London from immigrants. Now, again, if you understand history, life becomes a little bit less interesting, I suppose. So let's explain that. In fact, let's go back to opium. Why did the British inject or sell opium into China? Well, because they wanted Chinese tea. Again, it's not just spices. They colonized the whole world for spices. That's wrong. Take tea. The problem is that you did not have a common currency back then when the British wanted Chinese tea. And so it's kind of interesting how, tea is such a big deal, right? Boston Tea Party, the Tea Party political movement in the United States. So you've got tea and coffee. One of the reasons, by the way, that they are so significant is because of the amount of land it takes in order to cultivate that product and so on and so forth. So, even today, I just had some German tea made in Germany, and it was delicious. So yeah, I can see how people would want foreign tea. I'm here in Bangkok, and I want German tea. That's a holdover from the past. But there's no common currency, right? So the British have nothing to offer, right? They're like, we don't have anything, right? It's a cold place, right? I'm not sure if they had milk. Again, I've heard that a lot of Chinese are lactose intolerant. But anyway, trade has not always made a whole lot of sense anyway. So what they said was, well, there's opium. We've colonized some other country and they make opium. So we'll just give you their opium for your tea and everyone's happy, right? One of our colonies makes money and you get your tea. Everyone's happy. You get sort of caffeine. We get caffeine and you get another kind of a drug, basically. Although, of course, it's not done that way. Well, it turns out, obviously, that the British obviously loved tea from China. And so, they didn't have anything but opium. So they kept shoving the opium into China, and obviously with disastrous consequences, because one of them is obviously more addicting and more harmful than the other. Although, remember, codeine, painkillers, they come from the poppy, as far as I know. But you're looking at this whole sort of joke, right? Well, the real problem is that, the whole world, even today, functions on these, limited landowners, right? So you have to have this farm, to cultivate tea. Well, suddenly you've got plantation owners, right? And then that's where the real estate monopolies come in over time. And that, of course, encourages, to the extent that you have a labor-intensive system for globalized trade. Now, you can also see how a lot of that would then, the techniques, right, would then, transfer into coffee as well, with, a lot of other products, cotton, tobacco, a lot of them are drugs. And even today, if you look at, the way trade is done, right, it's still somewhat, and it's in a somewhat similar fashion, right? The colonies of the United States, the de facto colonies, also specialize in something specific, whether it's Taiwan with semiconductors. Just think about why you have the images of certain products associated with certain countries. The reason you do is because someone's paid for that product to enter your feed or your newspaper in the past, or your television screen, or your streaming service in the past. And that is really based on the private landowners that then essentially consolidated the real estate empire, that then allowed them to consolidate from the rents, and so on and so forth, into a media empire, into a coffee empire. Believe it or not, almost everything you see in the whole world is a monopoly. And the one reason I'm happy I got to travel now instead of 100 years from now is that not everything is a monopoly yet. And the reason that you have this is because a lot of the black market, to the extent that you're regulating something, that's only the stuff that you can see. A lot of the things that happen, we know online, there's shadow banning and all the other stuff. But a lot of that is to protect investments. We want to censor people and so on and so forth. But just think about all these different things. And a lot of jokes might not be funny to you, but the truth isn't always funny. Unless you're Chris Rock.